Okay, hello everyone. Very warm welcome to this webinar. And so it's a pleasure that Mr. Saikant Verma is present, and he will be addressing you regarding interview preparation. So I'll just read his bio very briefly. He graduated from IIT Madras with a dual degree in computer science, and then he interned at Microsoft and Ericsson, and they later worked at Amazon and Google. In his very first attempt, he cracked this exam with a rank 18, and he secured 208 in the interview, one of the highest marks that year. So later, once he completed his training, he started working as sub-collector and STM, Rajahmundry. And then he was project officer, Integrated Tribal Development Agency, Sitampeta, Srikakulam District, Andhra Pradesh. Currently, he is joint collector, development, YSR Kadapa, and he is responsible for all the developmental works in the district, also responsible for stabilizing and ensuring smooth functioning of village and ward secretariats in the district. So he has associated with insights in guiding our students previous years also, successfully guided many of them, and many of them have secured very good marks. So in this, he will share his experience, his important tips, how he prepared then, and based on his current experience, he will guide you how you can prepare better for this year interview. So wish you all the best, and thank you, Saikant. Thank you for coming and addressing our students. You can continue, Saikant. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinay. So it's always a pleasure to collaborate with you. And
Thank you.
I'll just quickly get started. Before I start, I just wanted to tell how I have planned out this session. So for about 20-25 minutes, I'll be briefly talking about the important aspects involved in interview preparation, following which I will open the session for Q&A. So if any of the aspirants or the candidates who are going to give their interview this year, if you've got any questions which you want me to answer, you can ask for it, and I'll be able to respond on these questions. And in the next 50 minutes, I hope that I'll be able to do some value addition for all the aspirants. And if some of you are able to get some good scores in the interview and end up with the service of your choice, I think the purpose of this Zoom meeting is served. So I believe all of you are able to see the screen. So I'll just introduce a little bit about myself. So Vinay has already did most part of it. So coming to my background, like Vinay just said, I did my engineering in computer science from IIT Madras with a dual degree, that is BTech and MTech in computer science. I graduated in 2011 and I worked for 2 years as a software engineer, 1 year at Amazon and 1 year at Google between 11 and 13. And then I started my preparation from June 2013, and I gave my first attempt prelims in 2014. And I was able to secure an All India rank of 18, and I got into the IIS. And I'm now born on Andhra Pradesh cadre, that is my home cadre. So my work experience after getting into the service, I was trained as assistant collector in Visakhapatnam district of Andhra Pradesh between 16 and 17. After that, I worked for about 1 year, 8 months as sub-collector and sub-divisional magistrate in Rajamahendravaram, East Godavari district, Andhra Pradesh. And then I had also worked as project officer and additional district magistrate, Integrated Tribal Development Agency, Sitampeta in Srikakulam district of Andhra Pradesh. And now I'm presently working as Joint Collector Development in YSR district of Andhra Pradesh. So it's been exactly 1 year now since I've joined this district. So why is civil services interview so important? See, the interview is the last stage in the entire selection process. And once you're selected for the interview, it doesn't matter how many marks you've scored in the mains, because the panel, they don't know how many marks you've scored in your mains. So it is going to be like a fresh start. Now, the interview is going to last anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes, and sometimes it goes even a little beyond that, depending on various factors. For example, in my particular case, the chairman had arrived a little late. So she wanted to wrap up the interviews very quickly, and my interview lasted for about 15 to 20 minutes, not more than that. So the duration of the interview varies from person to person. The duration is not going to decide how many marks that you'll end up scoring, because I believe that many people are of the opinion that if your interview lasts for 40-45 minutes, only then you'll end up, only then you'll stand a chance of getting a decent score. That is not correct. I'm a living example of that. My interview lasted for only 20 minutes, but I still ended up getting 208 in my interview. So also, why interview is important is because the range of marks that you get in the interview is very high. So which means that it can either make or break your candidature. So what I mean by that is, you will find people who would have scored 120 or 130 in the interview, and you will also find somebody who would have scored 210, 215 also in the interview. So the range of marks is like 80 to 100, which you wouldn't normally find even in the mains exam. In mains, if you take the average scores of top 100, the range of marks varying is not going to be very high. It's going to be around 30 marks, 40 marks, or something like that. I'm just talking about top 100. But however, when you look at the range of marks in the interview, it is going to be as high as almost 100 marks. So the point I'm trying to make here is, the score in the interview is going to pretty much decide what service you are going to land up into. So take your interview very, very seriously. I just wanted to give you an example of 3 candidates here. These 3 candidates, they belong to my batch only. Obviously, I have not put in their names. So candidate 1, he has, it's in fact a female candidate. She had scored just 6 marks over and above the cutoff for mains. That is how she was qualified for the interview. And but she ended up scoring very high marks in the interview of 215. And she ended up with IRS service. So that is the impact that the interview score can have on the service that you get into. Normally, somebody who barely crosses the main score, you do not expect them to end up with a very good rank and obviously a very good service. Here's the second candidate. This person has scored second highest marks in mains in the entire country during that year. But he had scored only 115 or 120 types in the interview. And he's ended up with IIS service, Indian Information Service. So ideally, you would expect that sort of a candidate in top 100 at least, if not in top 10. But, here is the example of one candidate whose interview score broke him and, totally changed the service that he was, that he had gotten into. Then here's a third candidate who ended up scoring fairly high marks in both mains as well as in interview. And he has ended up with IAS home cadre. And the third candidate is actually myself. So ideally, you would also want yourself to be the third candidate. So it is very, very important that you prepare well for the interview. So I just want to talk about a few myths here that many people will be having. I just already spoke about one of the myths, that is, a good interview is supposed to last for at least, 40 minutes, 45 minutes. The longer the interview is, the better it is. I can give you n number of examples wherein candidates who have given very short interviews ended up with very high scores, and also the other way around, wherein the interview lasted for good 40-50 minutes, but still they have ended up with very low scores. So do not try and judge each and everything that happens during the interview. Just keep your mind clean and simple. Just take it as a an intellectual debate or an intellectual discussion over a coffee table, but a formal one, not an informal one. A formal intellectual tea table chat. That is what I would call it. And the second myth that I would like to bust here is, some people say that an interview is the performance in the interview depends on your personality, which is something you cannot evolve or change in a matter of few days or a few months. That is correct. You may not be able to change your personality too much, but you can definitely groom your personality and make yourself in a presentable manner, which is what the interview is all about. So the interview, you need to prepare well for the interview so that you will be able to present a, a finer, refined version of your personality, so that they'll be able to see what you really are, so that they can actually be able to judge you appropriately, and you can end up with very good marks. At the end of the day, please understand that the interview panel, the chairman and the other members in the interview board, they would definitely appreciate those candidates who come prepared for the interview, rather than somebody who will just walk in and say random things, and who looks very unprepared. Nobody appreciates somebody who doesn't appear to be taking the interview seriously. That is the last thing you want to do. So please do not fall into the trap of this myth. So yes, you must prepare for the interview, and you better prepare very well about it. The second myth I would like to bust here is always give diplomatic answers. A big no. So what I mean by that is, some people have this tendency of saying, let us say if I ask you a question, an opinionated question, some people have the habit of saying, yes, there are advantages to it, but there are still some disadvantages to it. So it depends on the situation. No. See, one of the important quality you need to possess as a bureaucrat, as a civil servant, is to be able to make decisions. You should make precise decisions, quick decisions, correct decisions based on reasoning and logic. It should be free from all sorts of biases. So they expect the same in the interview also. They expect you to take stances. As an officer, you will have to make decisions in a life. Nobody appreciates an officer who doesn't take or who doesn't make decisions. So it's very important that you are opinionated, but your opinions should be backed by solid logic and reasoning, and they should be free from all sorts of biases. The kind of community that you grow up in, the kind of society that we all grow up in, there are some inherent biases that are bred into our minds. So we need to be able to liberate ourselves from these kind of biases and make sure that the opinions or the decisions that we make are free from these kind of myths or biases, inherent biases, which are not bound by any logic. Like, for example, should women be allowed into Indian Navy or the armed forces for that matter? Some people inherently, it's a totally different thing that whether you say yes or no to the answer to that question. But what really matters is what sort of reasoning are you giving in? Some people end up saying, naturally women are generally weak in terms of their physique and all. So it is not very much advisable to get them involved in labor intensive activities or those activities which involve a lot of physical activities. So that is actually wrong. It's based on a bias and it is not backed by science. So science actually says the other way around. So those women are biologically bound to be stronger than men. Reason being, a woman's body is actually, designed. The nature has designed a lady's body to bear a child. So when somebody has the responsibility of bearing the child, they are supposed to be physically stronger. So these kind of logical answers or logical reasoning will support you, and you need to take stances. It is very, very important. Many of the questions that will be asked in the interview are going to be based on, they will be asking for your opinions, or they will be asking you for your stances, in which case you will first have to give your stance. You need to tell, yes, that is correct. Or you must say, no, that is not correct, because this. It has to be as simple as that. And the third myth I would like to bust here is, don't be too honest in the interview. Try and be a little smart, try and be a little witty. Don't come across as a simple, very honest sort of a person. No. The last thing you should attempt in the interview is try and project yourself to be somebody that you're not. See, these people are very experienced chaps. They have, probably they have, 30, 35 years of experience in public service. They would have seen all sorts of people. They would have interacted with all sorts of people. So it takes just a couple of minutes for them to know whether you're lying or whether you're trying to be honest. So the minute they'll catch that you are trying to be fake and you're not real, you can kiss your chances of clearing the interview goodbye. So nobody appreciates a dishonest guy. So try and please be honest. So that is very, very important for you to be very honest. So many of the candidates, I generally, whenever I've interacted with some of the candidates, they or some of the mock interviews that I have taken, some of them end up saying that, I was given advice by such and such person or such and such panel during a mock interview that I was trying to be very honest and I was advised not to. No. See, please understand that, an interview is a very plain thing. Do not try and read between the lines. It's a very simple, like I said, an intellectual, formal conversation with seniors, with your seniors. So there is no reason why they will try and outsmart you. They will ask you something, but they will mean something else. No, they have no reason to be. If they want you to answer a particular question, they will exactly ask you that question in that way. So do not try and overcomplicate the question that has been asked. Simply listen to the question, understand the question, and answer straight to the question, and be honest about it. There is nothing to be dishonest about it. So coming to the different types of questions that are asked in the interview, I have largely categorized them into 4. One, these are based on your DAF. So in your detailed application form, you would have written certain basic things about yourself. Your educational background, your work experience, your interests, your hobbies, and things like that. Starting from your name, you should be prepared thoroughly on all these questions that are going to be asked. So, people will not appreciate the fact that you don't know certain fundamental things which are related about yourself. Like, for example, you hail from Hyderabad. They expect you why that city is called, the city of pearls, or what are the famous cuisines in Hyderabad, what are the famous historical or archaeological important significant sites in Hyderabad, what are the present urban challenges that are there. Starting from current affairs to all historical facts, you should be knowing each and everything about your DAF. So how do you prepare for these type of questions? What I would rather suggest is you pick your DAF, you take your DAF, and what you need to do is take each and every word starting from your name and construct what are the possible questions that can be asked from that one particular keyword. Let us say, for example, the example I was giving, Hyderabad. So what are the different types of questions that can be asked about Hyderabad? Like I said, they can ask you about the cuisine, the historical places. They can ask you about why Hyderabad is called the city of pearls, or what is the famous cuisine. They can ask you about Hyderabadi biryani, or they can ask you about Salarjung Museum, or they can ask you about Tang Bund. All sorts of questions can be asked. So you need to prepare all these questions. And for each of these questions, you need to prepare a short and crisp answer to it. It's very important that you do this exercise and you not only list down the questions, but you should also list down the answers that you would give, so that from those answers, you should predict what sort of further questions can be asked, and you need to prepare answers for it, and so on and so forth. It is, if you try and visualize it, it is like a tree. For example, Hyderabad is there. So what sort of the different questions that can be asked about Hyderabad? And for each of these questions, you will frame an answer. And from this answer, what sort of different possible questions can be asked? And then you prepare answers for these questions, sub questions also. And then from each of these sub answer, you should list out what sort of sub questions can further be asked. And this exercise must go on and go forth, so on and so forth. And you need to go to all possible levels as far as possible. So it's a very detailed exercise, and it is very, very important that you do this exercise because it will make you the master of your DAF. See, it is simple. Somebody who looks at your detailed application form and asks a question from your DAF, and you don't end up answering to that question, they are not going to appreciate. So they are not going to appreciate that you don't know something about your own DAF. So what is really important is you spend time and be well prepared about your detailed application form. The answer that you are going to give in the interview should also not be very, very detailed. You cannot keep on giving speeches. You need to plan it in such a way that it is crisp and to the point, and precise and to the point. So probably, in about 3 to 4 sentences, you should be able to give your constructed answer. So you will be able to do that. So for that, you should be able to convey a lot more content with very few words in a very few sentences. And that comes only with practice and preparation. So please be thoroughly prepared on your DAF. It is very, very important that you do the exercise that I've just told you so that you become a master of your DAF. And the second type of questions that will be asked in the interview are based on current affairs. And like I was saying, you should keep yourself in touch with all the ongoing current issues, even on the day of your interview. Even if you're going to give your interview in the morning session, it is very important that you, pick up that day's newspaper, go through the current affairs, understand, put that in the larger context, and be prepared about it. Always prepare for an answer for each and every current affairs issue. And most of the times they expect you to take a stance. Like, for example, the government of India or the state governments have utterly failed in handling the second wave of COVID pandemic. So they expect you to take a stance, and you very well, and you better take a stance, but it should be, backed by solid logic and reasoning. And you have to be, again, here also be very precise. You should not end up giving bhashans here. Nobody appreciates long speeches. They appreciate, short, crisp, and to the point answers. So you need to be prepared well for your current affairs based questions also. The third type of questions are basically these traditional and static questions. These are the questions like, which is a better system, parliamentary system or presidential form of government, or first past the post versus, proportionate. So all these kind of static questions. Now, you can basically list out these set of static questions by going through the interview transcripts of all the toppers in the last 5 to 10 years, depending on the time that you have got. And always farm an answer, be prepared with an answer, and you need to rehearse it multiple times so that you have a solid, well prepared and well articulated answer ready with you. So these traditional and static questions also, you need to list down, prepare the answers. And the trick here is, always whenever you prepare an answer for a question, you should always ask yourself what subsequent questions can be asked from the solution, from the answer that you gave. So this is very important, and in a way you can influence the interview to go in a particular direction. I'll give you one very good example. So this is from one of my batchmates. So this boy also has ended up with a very high score, some 200 plus in his interview. So he also hails from Hyderabad, and his name is Mohammad Roshan. So he was asked this question about, what are the famous cuisines about in Hyderabad? So since he hails from Hyderabad. So he spoke about the different cuisines, the different sweets, and obviously he spoke about Hyderabadi biryani. And his last statement of the answer was, Hyderabadi biryani is so famous that it has even got a geographical indicator tag, GI tag. And he stopped his answer right there. So the subsequent question was based on the intellectual property rights, IPR. So in a way, he has actually influenced the interview, and he was able to influence the interviewer to ask a question in a specific direction, and he was very well prepared about it. So, that is like the ultimate level of being prepared for the interview, which I think all of you must do so. Now, the fourth set of questions are GHY questions. GHY is an acronym which I had invented for God help you questions. So these are the questions which you will not be able to answer. So the key here is to be able to understand that I do know the answer, and be modest and be humble and be honest in saying that, sorry, sir, I don't know, and still be able to maintain your calm composure. So that is the key here. So these are the type of questions which you will not be able to answer. Like, for example, what is the chemical composition of rosewood? I mean, for an answer for a question like that, I'm pretty sure that any sensible or reasonable guy will not be able to answer. And these questions, they do not even expect you to know the answers for, but they ask you, they still go ahead and ask you these questions only to test your, patience and your attitude, basically, to see how you'll handle, uncomfortable situations. That is very, very important as a bureaucrat or as an officer. It is very, very important that you handle little uncomfortable situations and still be able to, make a right decision and, go ahead and maintain your calm and composure. So these are the fourth category of questions, and the key to answer these questions is being confident and always maintain a smile when you say, sorry sir, I don't know. So there are two important quotes which I want you to remember when you are going into the interview room. So please understand, one, the first thing is, please understand that a smart person is not someone who knows everything, but someone who knows what he knows and what he doesn't know. So why I'm saying this is because if I were to ask you, where is Charminar? If you know the answer, you should say, sir, Charminar is in Hyderabad. And if you don't happen to know the answer, I expect the response to be, sorry, sir, I don't know. I do not expect you to say, Charminar, sir, it is somewhere in South India, but I'm not very sure where exactly it is, sir. I think it is in Karnataka. No, it's a big blunder. So you should know what you know and you should know what you don't know. And if you don't know something, be spontaneous in saying, sorry, sir, I don't know. I'm not saying jump into the answer immediately after the question ends. Always think for a minute and then you answer. But if you don't know something, please be spontaneous and be very clear and be humble in saying, sorry, sir, I don't know. There is nothing wrong in not knowing few things. Like I said, a smart person is not someone who knows everything. For them, a smart person is someone who knows what he knows and who knows what he doesn't know. And once you know you don't know something, please be quick and clear in communicating that you don't know something. And the second most important quote is, see, normally any sort of exam that you give, right? You go into the interview or you give the exam as an aspirant. And once you clear it, you become that candidate that you want to be. Like, for example, you want to become an MBA grad or you want to get into IIM Ahmedabad. So you go give the CAT exam as an aspirant. And then once you clear the exam, you get yourself into the IMA. But civil services interview is one thing where you do not walk in as an aspirant and walk out as one. Rather, you should walk in as an IAS officer or as a bureaucrat that you want to be, so that you will be able to walk out as one. So what I mean is, if you aspire to become an IAS officer, you should walk into the interview room as an IAS officer already. You need to walk in as an officer. You should sit like an IAS officer. You need to talk, converse like an IAS officer. You should think like an IAS officer. You need to speak like an IAS officer. And you should be able to always maintain calm and composure like an IAS officer. And you have to leave the interview room as an IAS officer so that they can see that you are an officer already. And they will be able to reward you with those many marks so that you can actually become one. So please keep this in your mind. So this is not something, an interview is not something you walk in as an aspirant and then, you convince them that you can become a good officer. No, you need to be the officer that you want to be while the interview is going on. This is very, very important. This is where most of the candidates falter. Now, coming to the next slide. So this is the last slide. So some of the important tips that I want to tell you: always, please be honest and always stay calm, composed, and always maintain a little smile. I'm not asking you to laugh. Please don't become a joker. Don't laugh. Just always maintain a smile. Be honest and don't try and be, tensed about it. So just be yourself. Be calm, composed, and always maintain a smile. And it's okay to say no to some of the questions and still absolutely be okay with it. And tip number 2 is, please listen to the question properly. Listen to the question, understand the question, understand what is being asked before you answer. There is no need to jump into the answer. When they ask you a question, think for a minute and then you answer. Think for a few seconds, some 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, form an answer. If you are very well prepared with all the 4 categories of questions that I've talked about, you will have an answer. All you need to do is, think about the answer and think about the stance, the opinion that you're going to give, and just check whether it is being based on logic and rational or not, and then go ahead and answer. Be precise, to the point, and do not end up giving bhashans. I would, like I said, a typical, a good, decent answer can be given in 3 to 5 sentences, not more than that. I'm just giving, this is not hard and fast and rule. It's just, some sort of a, some benchmark that I'm giving so that you know what is a decent enough answer. You take your opinion and then you briefly explain why you take that particular opinion. So always listen to the question. Please do not give an answer. Please do not say something which is not an answer to the question that has been asked. So third point is be prepared on your DAF. So I personally believe that if you are not prepared on your DAF, that is unforgivable. Like, for example, if I sit in an interview panel and I ask you something, a question based on your DAF, and if you don't end up giving a decent answer, I'll be very unhappy about it. So tip number 4, give good number of mock interviews. So when I say good number of mock interviews, don't end up giving 3-4 mock interviews in a day, and don't overburden yourself or don't intimidate yourself too much. The idea of giving a mock interview is getting yourself adjusted, accustomed to that environment, so that you become comfortable with that environment. And you also analyze your performance in each and every interview. That is very, very important. So please do not take any feedback that the interview panel gives you on the face of it. Please apply your mind, and whatever appears logical to you, only please accept that feedback and then try and improve that in the next interview. So this is how you need to plan your mock interviews. You give your mock interview, you first analyze what went right and what went wrong. And for those things which went wrong, please understand what can you do to overcome that. You understand that, and you incorporate those whatever little changes that you need to make, so that you don't end up making the same mistakes in your next mock interview. And that is how you need to see yourself evolving from one mock to another mock. That is the whole point of it. Please don't end up giving too many mocks without doing any sort of value addition to you. So please do that. It's very important that you have this feedback mechanism. I can give you my own personal example. My first mock interview was a disaster. I knew it that I have messed it up big time. But if I remember it correctly, I have not given more than 5 or 6 mocks. My interview was in the very first 2 weeks of the interviews being scheduled. So I didn't have much time to give too many mocks also. And I was very, very clear that, I had given only certain number of marks, and I was, analyzing each and every mock interview very, very critically. I was taking their feedback, but not blindly accepting it. I was, taking in only those feedbacks which made relevance and which I was convinced with. And then I had incorporated it so that I did not end up making the mistakes subsequently. So this 6-7 mocks which I gave was good enough for me to, evolve and be comfortable with this whole interview setup. And I ended up with a very good score. So tip number 5, always maintain a smile, stay calm and composed, no matter what. It doesn't matter even if they are grilling you, even if they make statements that offend you, please don't get offended. Please understand that it is just, a way of testing you. So one of the important quality that a bureaucrat should have is to be able to handle situations where you are under tremendous pressure. That is very, very important. So once you are able to handle the pressure, then I think you will be able to become a very good officer, and that is what they look for in a candidate as well. So tip number 6, please watch the interviews of, some serving or retired bureaucrats, so that you understand how to respond to an answer, how do bureaucrats normally, well-trained and reputed bureaucrats or retired bureaucrats answer to questions. You can watch a lot of these discussions on Rajya Sabha TV or things like that. Wherein even when they ask you very difficult questions or they try and offend you, how they maintain their calm composure and still be able to answer logically without emotionally being influenced by it. So that is very, very important. So watch these interviews on YouTube and other social media and try and emulate them. It is very, very important that you emulate them. It's a very simple and time-tested model of grooming yourself. So these are the basic points that I wanted to tell you. And the time is 4:42. I've shot over by 2 minutes. So I'm now opening the floor for any Q&A so that if you have any questions, I'll be able to answer to them. So how do we go forward, Vinay?
Yeah, so now they will type their questions in question and answer section. Can you see that from your end? So if you're not seeing, I will read out the questions for you.
Q&A, right? Yeah, I can see.
Q&A.
So there is one Ashish Raj Pandey. He asked, I have appeared for UPPSC interview last year and expecting again. And I found that I get fumbled when the panel asked me that I will leave the service once I clear UPSC. Then why should I recommend by UPPSC? Also to be noted, my face explains my emotions instantly. Howsoever, I try to hide it. Yeah, so how to answer this question? The answer, like I said, is be honest about it. Yes, if you are giving a UPPSC interview and if you're able to get into that service, you will be able to work at the state level. And obviously, you'd want to serve at a larger platform. So yes, certainly your first preference is going to be UPSC, and be honest about it. And there is nothing wrong about it. And you can always say, yes, I wanted to clear UPSC. And if I am able to clear it, I will definitely go for it. And if I'm not able to clear that, I will be able to, serve at least at the state level. And I will definitely give it my best. It is not like I'm not going to give my 100% about it. So the key to answer these kind of questions is confidence. In my own personal interview also, I was asked this question. In fact, one of the board members, the very first, even before I was asked my first question, one of the interview board members had passed a statement saying that, oh, you are from IIT and you did engineering and you worked as a software engineer for 2 years and you have not been working anywhere for the past 1 year, 1.5 years. I think it's a wastage of your resources and government money and things like that. He passed a statement of that sort. So I was very confident and it was very clear. There is nothing to be offended about it. Yes, UPSC Civil Services is a very competitive exam and it demands a lot of time and effort from the candidates. And there is nothing wrong in preparing for something that you truly want to get into. If I were given an opportunity, I would have answered it as comfortably as any other question, but I was not asked to answer to the question. So that had not affected my confidence or my clarity. So it comes, like I said, from the clarity that you need to have in your mind. So, oh my God, there are a lot of questions. So let me ask. How to overcome the often prevailing notion of the panelists being biased towards the younger candidates or those with a particular degree? The answer to that question is, please take a look at the list of candidates who have selected. So if you are able to find even a single person, so if you're talking about age, so if you're able to find even a single candidate who's 30 plus or 35 plus in the top 100, I think you have your answer. So also, see, please understand that you will have to be an exception to be able to clear the exam. I mean, at the end of the day, 10 lakh aspirants give the exam, of which, if you want to be in top 500 or so, you need to be 500 amongst the 10 lakhs. So what are the odds? The odds are anyway very, very minimal and they're anyways against your favor, but you're still trying to fight for it, right? So even if you're able to find one candidate in top 100 who's above, 35, that means I think it's a very good chance and you stand a very good chance. Even if you're 35 plus, you will be able to clear the exam. So I guess I have answered your question. So be confident about it. And there are, like I said, if the UPSC doesn't want, candidates above 30 to get selected, they would have put the eligible qualification as 30 years. I mean, there is no reason why they would allow a 35-year-old student aspirant to give the exam and then not select him. It just doesn't make any sense. So I will just rule it out saying that it is not correct. And any degree also the same question. If they don't want any aspirant from a particular degree, they might as well remove it from the qualified basic qualification, right? They have no reason to put it as a basic qualification, call you for the interview and not select you just because you possess a particular degree. So next question, sir, can we use or mix Hindi and English while answering during the interview? So while giving the interview, I believe you have an option to give the medium of your interview. Once you give the medium, please stick to it. So it will be very unprofessional to cut across different languages. So it's very important. It's okay even if you choose Hindi as your medium of interview, that's absolutely fine. But please stick to the medium of interview that you have put in your application form. So what are the mistakes that lead to us drastically low scores? Like I said, being dishonest and all the points that I've just covered, I think those are the classic mistakes which you end up making, which will end you with very low scores. How we should give our introduction? So if they ask you to give you your introduction, they expect you to give your basic information about your educational background, your professional experience, and things like that. So please be prepared about all these sort of questions. These are all little cliched questions. So please be prepared about these questions. Please give insight about eye contact. Yes, it is very important that you make an eye contact. It makes you appear to be a confident person. So it's okay even if the other person, the person that you're answering to, is not making an eye contact, but you should still try and make an eye contact with them and be confident about it. How to handle questions on controversial subjects like abortion, reservation? I believe that there aren't any controversial questions for a bureaucrat. You just have to be clear. You need to take a stance based on logic and legality of the aspects of it. Like for example, abortions, they should be permitted. An individual, a grown-up individual or a grown-up woman should be given the freedom of choosing to bear a child or not bear a child. It is her choice. I believe it's a part of a fundamental right to freedom. So how are you applying your corporate experience and computer science background in your district, especially in COVID times? So you can use a lot of technology in understanding and solving the scale of problems. So technology can help you scale up. I'll not take too much time. I'll just give you one classic example of how I'm using the technology. So as the number of cases are growing in my district, COVID positive cases, 85% of the people, we end up putting them in home isolation. So we put up a big control room who will be calling up each of these persons in home isolation, and we get to know whether they're doing fine or they're developing if their saturations are dropping and things like that by calling them up directly. As the number of cases go, so we introduce this simple system of IVRS calls, wherein for all the people, we have about 6,000 to 7,000 patients who are in home isolation. So an IVRS call with a pre-recorded voice message will go and hit them, and it will tell them, we are calling from health department of YSR district, and we want to know how you're doing. And if you are developing any difficulty in terms of breathing or any other serious symptom, please press 1. And if you are doing fine and you have gotten the home isolation kit and you don't need any doctor at this point of time, please press 0. So 80% of them say we don't have any issues, so they press 2, so that we know they're doing fine. And the remaining 20% of them say yes, we have symptoms and we are facing some problem. So that will drill down the 20% of the people which we will have to focus upon, And it is only this 20% of the people that we actually end up calling through doctors. So this is just one example of how we can use technology and computer science background in COVID times. Can we take a stand against government in certain cases? Yes, it is absolutely fine to criticize, constructively criticize government. Like, for example, I firmly believe that the state or the government has failed utterly in handling the second wave of COVID. But you need to be constructive about it and be reasonable as to why you believe so. And you should also talk in a positive sense of what are the different measures and what are the different learnings that we have incorporated in handling the pandemic now. You can talk about classic examples of Mumbai, how it was able to handle the pandemic, and as compared to Delhi, and how it was able to handle the pandemic, and it's a state driven initiative, and how it was able to handle the pandemic well. So is it okay of not wearing suit and tie? It's a little cliched question. Please go in formals, at least wear a tie, if not a blazer, if you're not comfortable with it. And if you're comfortable wearing a blazer, please do so. But it is very important that you wear formals, a formal shirt with a tie, a formal tie, a belt, formal trousers, formal shoes, and formal socks. And for a lady officer or for a lady, any sort of, a sari or a Punjabi dress or even Western formals would do. I think I have already answered this question. EC failed in handling election and things like that. So there are too many questions here. So Vinay, if you want me to answer any of these questions in a specific, some of these important questions, that will be better, I believe. There are far too many questions.
Yeah, right. Around 36 questions are there.
Yeah.
Okay. So there are some general questions which are, I think you've already addressed. So one question is regarding personality, like how to control the nervous feeling even though prepared thoroughly. Like there are 2 to 3 similar questions. So it is about the personality itself. So how they can become confident. So if you can give 1 or 2 tips.
Yeah, like I said, give good number of mocks, be constructive about it, and please do not, please understand, like I said, the very first statement I told is, you need to be comfortable. You need to think of the interview as something like, formal intellectual discussion with your seniors. Please don't try and pressurize yourself too much about, not knowing answers to some of the questions. Please be confident about yourself, and the ease will come with giving decent number of mocks and being well prepared about it. So please be confident and rehearse to be confident about it. Get yourself comfortable with the whole setup of the interview by giving decent number of mocks, and be thoroughly prepared about the interviews.
So how to approach situational questions? Any general guidelines?
Sorry, what exactly do you mean by situational questions?
As a district collector, how will you handle COVID situation in your district? Something like this.
Yeah, so yes, they will ask these kind of questions, and it is very important that you end up giving a multi-pronged strategy. One, it comes from enforcement. Two, it comes from awareness. So the answer that you give will have to be balanced, and it should be multi-pronged. You need to sort of adopt a bring it on kind of an approach. Like if I were to be asked in the interview as a district manager, how will you handle pandemic? I will talk about, spreading the awareness, involving the NGOs and civil societies in spreading the awareness, understanding, the testing, increasing the testing capabilities, training your staff on how to test, how to take the testing to the grassroots levels, to the, PHC level, subcenter level, and, how to set up, how do you set up multiple triaging systems so that you end up giving an answer to the positive patients as to where they should be sent to, and training your medical staff on doing the triaging, and setting up multiple COVID care centers to treat mild to moderate cases, and then setting up your hospitals and strengthening them, monitoring the oxygen now that oxygen has become a very, very critical resource, and then ensuring the supply of the drugs. You need to set up multiple verticals in the district, and you need to be able to handle the situation from multiple aspects. You should be able to be prepared to handle the deaths also. You need to have a death audit system, and dead body management protocols. So it should cut across multiple sectors as to awareness, enforcement, and preparing multiple vertical teams so that each team is focused on doing a particular task effectively. So that is how you need to answer these kind of questions. By you actually need to put yourself in the shoes of a DM, and devise a multiple strategy, a multi-pronged strategy to be able to handle those kind of situational questions.
So this again another cliched question, but very important. Why do you want to become an IAS officer? From your side, any
yeah, please be honest about it. Be genuine on why you want to be an IAS officer. For example, in my case, the reason why I wanted to become an IAS officer is because it will give me an opportunity to have a long-lasting impact at a very young age. It puts you in a very, it gives you a very, an important leadership role where you will be able to impact the lives of large number of people. You need to be given you will be given an opportunity to head a large team. So it will help you learn multiple skills, and will help you evolve to a level where you will end up charting out the policies at the state level and national level, and be able to impact a large number of people's lives, which you wouldn't normally get in any other role. So that is the reason why I wanted to get into the IAS.
Okay. So there is one interesting question. At a mock interview, at the end, I said, "Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure to be interviewed by such distinguished people." At the end, I was suggested that it is better only to limit to thank you. What do you suggest as the better alternative?
So, like I said, it should appear very natural to them. It makes total sense to make such a statement like that after the interview, if you genuinely feel so. If you're not very comfortable, or if the interview went not as per the lines, and you end up making a statement of that sort, it just doesn't appear coherently to the whole the interview. So there's nothing wrong in being honest and making statements like, yes, thank you so much, and I'm really delighted to be interviewed by such a panel of distinguished seniors. There's nothing wrong in making statements like that. So like I said, all sorts of people end up giving different types of feedback. So you just have to be, you need to apply yourself, apply your mind, and filter it through logic and rationale, whether you take that feedback or not. So I generally don't see any reason why you shouldn't, thank them or express your, your excitement of being interviewed by a distinguished panel. But it should not appear to be fake. That's the idea about it.
Okay, one last question. How much depth I should prepare on questions regarding my graduation in electronics and communication for any graduation subject? What is the depth?
You need to be, like I said, you need to go into the depth as you can, because at the end of the day, like I said, you should be a master of your detailed application form. For example, I, as a computer science engineer, go to the interview, and if somebody is from an educational background, or if their graduation also happens to be from the same field, and they ask me, some question about what is an operating system, I should very well be able to answer that sort of a question. If they ask me a further, in-depth question like, what is the difference between Linux operating system and Microsoft operating system, they expect me to know the answer, and I should very well be knowing the answer. So it is very, very important that you go to the depths of it, and be very well prepared about your graduation subjects also.
One another last question related to IIT. What should
Sure.
be the answer for the question about being from IIT and not contributing to the country with engineering knowledge?
Yeah, so this is exactly the question that was asked in my interview also. So one of the interview panel members has asked me this question. People like you who end up studying at the cost of the state, government spends a lot of money in training you guys graduate in a particular field, but you guys graduate and then you abandon that field and go do something else, wasting a lot of public money. So my answer to the question would be, IITs are not just about, imparting a specific skill to you. They're also about, teaching you, giving you a global exposure so that you understand, the different facets or the real world that is there. And it will help you, give a good exposure so that you understand, you learn about yourself, and it will make you a matured person. It will give you that sort of an exposure which will make you a matured person, which will help you understand and make very matured decisions in your life. For example, I ended up saying that from my personal example, my personal experience, I decided to get into the IIS because of the exposure that I got at IIT. And that sort of maturity I wouldn't have gotten if I were to if I were to graduate at a different college. And that really helped me to choose civil services for the right reasons. And I believe that is very, very important. And yes, it is. And the civil services is also a career where it would want candidates or aspirants from different backgrounds. They would want, best of the lawyers coming into the service, best of the engineers, best of the doctors, best of the, MBA grads to get into the service, so that they will be able to contribute in their own way in the different fields, given the, depth or the spread of the service that is there. I hope that I have answered to that question.
One latest question, just last question. Nowadays, they're asking two questions. What are you going to do after your interview? In the end, they're asking this question. And another question, would you like to ask us any questions? So what should be the response of the candidate?
Sorry, I missed out the first part.
Yeah, so at the end of the interview, they're asking these two questions. One member asks, what are you going to do after the interview? Okay, another question that is asked nowadays, would you like to ask us any question?
Yeah, so the first answer to the question is, please tell them genuinely what you're going to do after the interview. There's nothing wrong in saying, sir, I will take a break and then, I will start preparation for my next attempt. Or you can simply state that, I will start working somewhere, or I will do some traveling, or just be honest about it. There's nothing wrong in being honest about it. So tell them exactly what you're going to do after the interview. And to the second question of if you have any questions to them, if you have any question, you can ask them. Otherwise, you can simply say, no, sir, thank you. I have no questions from my side. See, the key to answering these questions is there is no right or wrong answer. The key is to be confident about and be clear about what you want.
Okay, thank you so much, Saikant.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Listening to you.
Thank you also, Vinay, for organizing this session on such a short notice. And I thank all the aspirants, and I hope that there was some value addition that went into during this session. And I would also like to get some feedback from you guys. So if Vinay can, sort of consolidate some feedback from these candidates who have attended this session and pass it on to me, so that it will help me also in, planning further sessions.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
I wish you
all those who all those who attended, please send your feedback. Okay, you have our email ID. Please send it back to itself. Thank you.
Thank you, and I wish you all the very best. Thanks, Vinay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.